Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Research Aromatica. I'm excited for our content today and excited for everybody that's joining us for this webinar. Now, we want to continue our theme for September, which just so happened to be cannabis. Last webinar, we had quite a few people speak about the history of cannabis, give some background on the cannabis plants and some of the end use and the research that gone into them. We are grateful to Nate Farnsworth from Factory 6, who joined us to talk about some of the formulation aspects that are happening with cannabis and the variety of products that are steadily growing. And I'm sure people are seeing the popularity of cannabis products reaching the market today. So in conjunction with that, we wanted to have today's webinar focused around testing. And there's a great deal that is being learned and has been learned in the last couple of years. And we wanted to share some of the items that we've learned and that the industry is learning when it comes to the testing of cannabis products. So I did want to mention too, at APRC, we have focused on aromatic plants, extracts, and essential oils that come from these aromatic plants. And of course, cannabis is an aromatic plant. And when the Farm Bill passed in 2018, we had a large number of clients come to us asking if we had the ability to test cannabis products and looking at various cannabinoids, terpene profiles, residual solvents, and so forth that we'll get much more into in just a moment. But as we continue to look into the opportunity to be in the cannabis space, we really felt that we could provide a solid base, bring credibility to a burgeoning market. There are a lot of negative connotations with cannabis, some well received, others really just a product of differing opinions throughout the years and decades. But as we started to investigate cannabis and what we could provide from a testing perspective, we got really excited and felt that we could provide a great deal of, as I said, credibility to the industry. And our focus has always been bringing accurate testing so that now very legitimate companies that want to market truly beneficial cannabis products can be assured of the safety of the products, what's in their products, and ensure label claims are accurate so that people can know what type of products they're consuming so that they can best meet their health needs and ensure that they're getting the type of products that they can have a lot of comfort in. So with that, in 2018 with the Farm Bill, as we said, we started to look into it. In 2019, we started to purchase the necessary equipment to be able to do all of the necessary tests surrounding cannabis products. And in 2019, I met Alec Anderson and worked with him for over a year and a half now. And Alec has headed APRC's cannabis efforts, and that's a very broad way of saying there's a lot of different testing and method development and result-based analysis that he has been instrumental in implementing. So as a further introduction to Alec, before I turn the time over to him, as he will get much more into the various types of testing that is required and is very beneficial for cannabis products. Tell you a little bit more about him. Alec was raised in southern Utah, and he found a deep passion for science at a very early age, which he has pursued throughout his education. After graduating, Alec applied and worked in a local blood processing lab. From that point on, he has become addicted to laboratory work. He would move on to large national diagnostic labs working in chemistry, as well as atomic and pathology and histology. Alec made a major leap from his originally planned career in the medical laboratory to a medical device laboratory. The switch not only included a complete paradigm shift from patients to production lots, but also from biology over to chemistry, where Alec would lead the endotoxin and LAL testing laboratory, as well as directing the course for ICP OES analysis of 16 elements. ALEC has also led quality control laboratories along with a production laboratory specializing in protein analysis. As I mentioned, in 2019, ALEC joined APRC, where he oversees the cannabis program in both industrial hemp as well as medicinal cannabis. ALEC has developed multiple assays relating specifically to cannabis, cannabinoid, terpenoids, etc., as well as some special projects related to other plant species like boswellic acids, caffeine, lupiol, etc. Now, in early 2018, ALEC spearheaded the Medicinal Cannabis Initiative in the state of Utah for APRC. After preparing and filing a lengthy application, APRC became the first and currently only, as of September 2020, licensed and third-party medicinal cannabis testing laboratory in the state of Utah. And I say I'm personally grateful for all the work ALEC did to get APRC to that point, to where we can work with the Department of Agriculture and many other government agents that are doing a very good job at trying to ensure safety and efficacy in the medicinal cannabis space. And with that, I'd like to turn the time over to ALEC so he can go through his interesting presentation on the testing of cannabis products. ALEC?
Thank you, Aaron. Can you hear me? Awesome. Okay, so hello, everybody. I'm ALEC. As Aaron has already introduced me, I'm here to talk to you about the importance of lab testing in cannabis and cannabis products. So let's get our presentation started here. And so a brief introduction here. Cannabis has made significant strides in the pathway for legalization in recent years. Within 20 years, this plant has managed to find its way from an illicit substance to accepted medical treatment and industrial commodity. As this budding industry has grown to meet the needs of its consumers, so too has the need for testing. In new and volatile industries, inventive and sometimes dangerous practices are undertaken in an attempt to gain more traction in the market. This was at the root of the problem in 2019 during the now infamous vaping crisis, in which manufacturers, both legitimate and illicit, attempted to increase their production volumes and reduce costs by using vitamin E acetate as a thinning agent rather than safer, albeit costlier, cannabis terpenes for that same purpose. It's this reason that laboratory testing is so important in cannabis products. There's multiple benefits to laboratory testing. We'll break them down into regulatory benefits, process control benefits, and marketing benefits. So to start off with the regulatory and safety benefits, proper laboratory testing is required not only for the detection of nefarious additives like vitamin E acetate in vape cartridges, but also for safety hazards that may inadvertently end up in your final products. In general, the safety tests that are required by most states consist of residual solvents, which can include volatile and non or semi-volatile solvents, pesticides, heavy metals, microbial life, and mycotoxins. Those are the general main categories we see throughout different states' legislations. So with residual solvents, the first question is to ask, what is a residual solvent? In all extraction methods of cannabis, a type of solvent is used to help separate the cannabinoids and terpenes or other compounds of interest from the plant matter itself. These solvents can remain in the product and after the manufacturing process, which can be a health concern depending on the solvent and in the concentration it's at within the product. In addition to extraction solvents, other solvents may intentionally end up entering your product from other sources or even arise from reactions within the product itself. So solvents can be either, got a little ahead of myself there. Solvents can be either volatile or semi-volatile, or even non-volatile in some cases. A solvent is considered volatile if it evaporates easily at room temperature. These can include ethanol, acetone, pentane, and those sorts. Non or semi-volatile solvents show little to no evaporation at room temperature. Dimethyl sulfoxide, or DMSO, sulfolane, dimethylactamide, and dimethylformamide are good examples of these. Testing for solvents is primarily a safety concern since many solvents are toxic to humans and some in extremely low doses. For example, benzene, which in the state of Utah has a limit of 2 ppm. However, solvent testing can also reveal problems in your manufacturing process and highlight opportunities for improvement. For example, if you see large amounts of ethanol inside of your distillate or crude, that might be an indication that you might have to put that stuff on the rotogrup a little bit longer and maybe crank up the temperature a bit to drive all that away. Additionally, the presence of ethylene glycol or antifreeze might point towards a problem with any machinery used during the process, especially cooling systems. The presence of benzene, which I had alluded to earlier in final products, may arise from incompatible chemicals used in formulations or from improper preparation or storage of these products. As seen in that graphic on the right is an actual example of how we believe benzene ended up in a product that we tested, which was it was a lotion or balm. We'll move on to the next type, which is pesticides. The usage of pesticides is typically avoided in cannabis cultivation due to strict government regulation, and also growing plants indoors tends to lessen the need for these pesticides. Even if no pesticides are used during the outdoor cultivation, drift from nearby fields or other routes of contaminations are still a legitimate concern. Even if all precautions are taken in the growing process and the resulting extract from them is analyzed and found to be pesticide-free, there still could be risks of introducing pesticides during final product formulation. One such example are essential oils. Essential oils are commonly used in the preparation of topical and edible products. These oils are sourced from all over the globe, often with little to no regulation guiding them. Due to the wide variety of pesticides used around the world for essential oil production, the scope of pesticide analysis on essential oils should be a bit wider than normal cannabis pesticide screens. Extractors of cannabis materials should take extra precautions to ensure that no pesticides in their plants contaminate their machinery. Most extraction and distillation methods will concentrate any of these present pesticides within the raw plant matter, as well as contaminate your entire system, which can take weeks to remove. Pesticides are infamous for lingering extraction and even testing systems longer than the material has been removed. Extensive cleaning and possibly weeks of downtime can be avoided from a simple test of incoming plant matter to screen these for possible pesticide contaminants. Let's see, so now we will move on to microbial life. Oh gosh, slides are put out of order here, sorry. Yeah, we'll do heavy metals. So sorry about that. Normally these, okay, there we go, sorry. My bad. So cannabis has been known for years as a very effective and efficient bioaccumulator. This means that the plant has an inherent ability to absorb compounds from its environment and accumulate them within the certain plant tissues. In terms of nutrients, this can have a very positive effect. However, with contaminants, like heavy metals, this can be a recipe for disaster. Cannabis has been used as a phytoremediator at various cleanup sites and was also considered for Chernobyl and Fukushima, although due to the regulatory and legal concerns, they weren't used, unfortunately. The cannabis plants are literally able to clean the soil around them by absorbing pollutants from that have deposited in the soil. After the remediation is complete, the plants are destroyed safely to contain those hazards effectively without harming anybody and cleaning up the environment in the process. This same process can occur unintentionally when plants are planted in contaminated soil. If your farm has been located in an area like a mine runoff, you can see heavy metals start to leach into your plant matter. The metals that we most commonly test for, these are known as the big four. They are cadmium, lead, arsenic, and mercury. All four of these compounds can cause serious damage along with serious long-term damage along with some acute problems, and are a primary concern for such an efficient bioaccumulator like cannabis. Further, if cannabis cultivation sites are located near high-risk areas like former Superfund sites, old mining tailings, additional heavy metal testing for additional contaminants may be required or recommended. Okay, now we will move on to microbial life. So sorry about that. This is the one category of contaminants that can be encountered at any step in the cannabis production process. Interestingly enough, in Utah, microbial life is the only test that is required at every single stage. Even potency can be, you don't have to test for potency at certain stages during a cannabis production process, but microbial life is the one test that is always, always, always required. The problem with these microbes that set them aside from all other contaminants is their ability to replicate themselves, obviously. As an example, if your tincture was contaminated with 0.01 ppm of lead, that would technically still be acceptable under most guidelines, and further, the concentration would remain the same so long as no further sources of lead were introduced. If, on the other hand, your tincture was contaminated with a small amount of E. coli, that might first have been acceptable, or even not detectable in some ranges. As the product sits, the microbes can grow and flourish to dangerous levels in a matter of days. Because of the inherent risks certain microbes pose on human life, it's recommended that you test these at all stages. The next category here, these are mycotoxins, which these are more of a specialized category, which, yeah, not many people encounter mycotoxins during cannabis production, fortunately, because they're so dangerous. Certain fungi, mostly Aspergillus, different species, produce these compounds that are extremely potent toxins to humans and animals. Two categories that are commonly monitored in cannabis are called aflatoxins and ochratoxins. Aflatoxins are some of the most carcinogenic compounds known to human, and it appears no animal on Earth is immune to the acute toxicity these produce as well. Concentrations in the range of microorganisms can be enough to cause liver cancer in humans. Aflatoxins can be inhaled, ingested, and even absorbed through the skin. Ochratoxins are less damaging than aflatoxins, but the severity of their impact is still nothing to be dismissive of. Ochratoxins can damage the kidneys as well as the brain. Additionally, ochratoxins are known to accumulate in the body, causing long-term damage. The carcinogenicity of ochratoxins in humans is still up for debate, although they have been shown to produce cancer in rats. There's even some evidence to suggest that exposure to ochratoxins can induce spontaneous abortions in pregnant women, making them a severe risk. Due to the severity and of potential impact because of mycotoxins, as well as the low concentration these compounds can work at, careful monitoring is imperative to catching these things. Excuse me, sorry. The physiology of the cannabis plant is particularly vulnerable to the mycotoxin-producing fungi. The sticky trichomes and leaves of the plant allow for fungal spores to adhere more readily, and with the dense and humid structures provided inside of the flowers, it provides a perfect home for fungi, damp, warm, and dark. Mycotoxin testing can be pretty expensive owing to how sensitive this equipment needs to be able to detect such low levels of compounds, sometimes as low as 20 parts per billion. Fortunately, mycotoxin testing may only be required if high fungal counts have been seen in the plant matter beforehand, but of course this varies in different regions according to your local, federal, state regulations. The next category and so this concludes the regulatory and safety benefits that we've talked about here. So now we'll move on to the next category, which is process control benefits. So thorough examination in the laboratory of all parts of the cannabis supply chain from seed to sale has been adopted in all states with medical cannabis initiatives. However, in addition to the required testing by your state or federal government, it may be beneficial to your product to run tests during your processes. Routine testing can help you keep a pulse on your production process and closely monitor your system for signs of imminent failure. During new process development, setting up additional equipment, testing to ensure proper settings have been dialed in is crucial to maximizing the efficiency of your validated processes. Oops, I'm so sorry. So we'll break this down kind of chronologically here. Potency tests during crop cultivation can help you closely monitor critical cannabinoids for industrial hemp, allowing you to reach maximum CBD levels before you hit the legal limit of THC in your crop. Testing the soil and irrigation water for heavy metal contaminants can help save your crop before they are ever planted. And that way you can avoid ruining your crop with heavy metal contamination. Sex testing of your juvenile plants can help to reduce rogue male plants that can have serious consequences by turning your entire field hermaphroditic. During the drying phase, terpene monitoring can help ensure that you are cultivating the proper aroma and flavor that you are looking for. Microbial testing can be performed to ensure the plant matter is not growing fungi, which can destroy your entire crop in months of work. the screening. And so now, let's see, we'll move to the process and extraction side. For extractors, screening of all coming plant material can help reduce the risk of system contaminations. Residual solvent testing can illuminate inefficiencies at different steps in your process, like we had mentioned with the ethanol testing or ethylene glycol. Heavy metal testing has been used to monitor oil levels or motor oil. I'm so sorry. Heavy metal testing has been used in motor oil analysis for decades, which can help diagnose which parts of your car are close to failure or are contributing to lower efficiencies in your into your system. And so the same benefits might be translated over to machinery, but that just depends on what you're looking for. These similar approaches might be adopted in equipment for cannabis. While you're scouting for new formulations of your end products, this is for the manufacturer's stage, or when you're considering new suppliers for existing ones, it's important to test all your incoming materials for safety and for purity. Although strict government regulations are in place, the opportunities for adulteration are still available. Claims of potency should always be verified by directly testing the product or by calling the reporting lab to verify the values. Direct testing is preferable since you have all the control and it will reveal if the manufacturer has diluted their product after testing. Product dilution is a common means of adulteration and can be detected easily by comparing the values of potency that the manufacturer claims compared to direct observed potency measures. If the observed value is significantly lower than the stated value, tests can be run to detect common cutting agents like coconut or MCT oil or vitamin E acetate, both of which, if placed in vape cartridges, could have disastrous consequences, as these substances are not meant to be inhaled or absorbed through your lung tissue. Another avenue for adulteration could be the use of novel cannabinoids, mostly referred to as synthetics or K2 or spice, in place of classical phytocannabinoids like CBD or THC. In appearance, both of these substances like CBD and K2 or spice, these look like just white crystalline solids, making it hard to distinguish to the naked eye, but with chemical analysis, the identity can be very easily determined. Now we'll move on to our final portion here, which is the marketing benefits of laboratory testing. So cannabis products are beginning to saturate the market, unfortunately. Numerous companies and individuals are rushing to stake their claim in what is being called colloquially as the green rush. One major challenge for a cannabis product manufacturer, especially new ones, is making their products stand out. From an active ingredient standpoint, at the end of the day, THC in one product is identical to THC in another. They're the same concentration. What can help differentiate your products are adjoining compounds like terpenes, mainly special aromas. These terpenes are naturally occurring compounds in nearly every plant species, including cannabis. Essential oils of these plants are often often a complex mixture of these different terpenes produced by the plant. Cannabis produces terpenes that are also found in other plants, such as alpha-beta pinene are great examples of these cross-species terpenes. These compounds are found in pine trees, where they get their namesake, rosemary, orange peel, eucalyptus, and frankincense. Not only will specific or unique terpene profiles help set your product apart from a flavor or fragrance standpoint, additional testing can help prove the authenticity of the terpene mixtures you're using. Now, you might be asking, why is it important to determine the authenticity of a terpene mixture? Well, manufacturers will often blend synthetic terpenes from non-plant material into a mixture that resembles a natural blend of terpenes found within specific plants. This issue is the issue with this practice is the unintentional addition of side reaction products arising from the synthesis of these terpenes, which could be harmful. This type of adulteration calls into question both the practices and ethics of the original manufacturer and the validity of any natural claim you put on your natural products. Thorough screening of your terpene mixtures that you plan to add to your products, both derived from cannabis and other plants, is a simple and easy way to be confident that your products are 100% natural. Cannabis-derived terpene or products also tend to have an off-putting or a bitter taste. This can deter people who may benefit from your products from using them or enjoying them. Creating an easily palatable and enjoyable product is key to gaining an advantage in the market. Laboratory testing can help you identify key components of your flavor profile and allow you to dial in the specific blend that you're looking to create. Laboratory testing can also help you reverse engineer products with desirable traits and allow you to build your own versions of a product. Additionally, if something in your product formulation has changed unexpectedly, creating a different aroma or taste than is normal, laboratory testing can help you identify what has changed, and the lab may be able to offer advice of how to remediate or prevent that change. So this kind of sums up the three major benefits of laboratory testing here. Oh gosh, I missed a lot of slides there. Oops. Well, we covered it all. So we'll move on to the conclusion. There's numerous benefits to laboratory testing, obviously, from addressing safety concerns to effectively marketing your cannabis products and everywhere in between. Unfortunately, in this new industry, there can be many avenues of adulteration or potential health risks. This is due to, in part, of regulatory agencies not knowing enough about this plant to enforce enough testing requirements, such as screening for certain heavy metals or the mycotoxin questions or any other number of arising concerns. We have seen numerous lawsuits since the federal legalization of hemp has been put in place, which encompasses issues from genetic variability or adulterated or contaminated products. Lab testing helps to address these dilemmas before the products even get to the consumer and can help save you from a potential lawsuit. We may be a long way from standardizing test requirements and bringing down the cost of these tests, but with enough time and pressure on the lawmakers to establish standardized regulations, these will ultimately help this industry with the volatility and the ambiguity of it all. Thank you for listening to this presentation. This is something obviously we're very passionate about. And yeah, I believe now we'll turn the time over to questions.
Yep. Thanks so much, Alec. That was great. Really well done. Really appreciate it. So we got some questions that we wanted to discuss here. The first of which is you talked about limits of various analytes. What about heavy metals? Are there limits for how much heavy metal is allowed in a product?
Yes, and that varies state to state. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but Utah does have very specific, lead is 0.02 ppm. Each one of them has different levels associated with it, but every state should be setting their own requirements for limits of every analyte that they require to be tested.
Yep, very true. On that, you mentioned state to state and how much that varies there. I think there probably is a lot of questions about the federal level. It's very broad and seems to just focus on the amount of THC. How can one tell based off of what state they happen to live in, what is acceptable, what products they can buy, what is or is not illegal based on where they live?
Right, and that's a great question. I mean, you would think that the state setting the regulations, manufacturers just wouldn't put out products that would be illegal in that state. But unfortunately, it seems that some can squirrel their way through and make them into stores unnoticed. And it's mostly just because this is such a new industry. A lot of the states, I know Utah, I can speak from experience, it's just a very new environment, and the regulation is kind of struggling to keep up with this huge inflow of products. I would say the best way to determine what your state's regulation is to reach out to whatever state you're in, to your local agricultural department. They're usually the ones who are in control of the hemp, because the federal government just set that basic guideline of if it's hemp, it has to be less than 0.3% THC by weight, and they let the states decide everything else from there. So that's that variability in states. So whatever state you're in, reach out to your agricultural department. They're the ones who are going to be setting these limits and deciding what is legal, what is not, and what is acceptable in terms of contaminants would be my main suggestion.
Yeah, great. Yeah, good suggestion. And again, as we're all kind of learning in this together, and states do collaborate together on some of these items, these regulatory items too. But yes, you do need to be mindful of what is or is not considered legal in the state that you happen to live in. and globally too, not just in the United States, but there's still a varying array of regulations in every country too.
Yeah, certainly, right. We're seeing, yeah, it's kind of like the green wall is falling down.
Yeah.
Canada is fully legal for both recreational and medicinal usage of high THC products. I know that, yeah, obviously in the Netherlands it's decriminalized. I've heard of legalization efforts being pushed forward in numerous other countries. So I think we're going to see kind of a sweeping wave of a kind of a green revolution almost.
Yep. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So when it comes to testing of cannabis products, and you alluded to, there's a vast variety of delivery systems, different types of products that are
Mhm.
produced in the market today, not only for medicinal cannabis, but hemp CBD products. From your experience, what is the most challenging type of product to get an accurate result in, and why?
Of course, that's a great question. Um, Let me think. From hard products, I would say vape cartridges are especially difficult, not because the matrix is hard, it's just the hardest part is opening the thing. Some of those are tighter than bank vaults almost. So in some cases, we've had to literally smash the cartridge open to get the stuff inside. So that's from a physical standpoint, but from a chemistry standpoint, I would say the most challenging to get a good handle on are the gelatinous products. So these would be like gummy bears or cubes or any other shapes or whatever you want. Those are especially difficult because those are 100% water-based products. The problem with that being cannabis is not a water-soluble cannabinoids are not water-soluble compounds. So this can lead to a few couple of these can lead to some problems there. One, you get irregularity inside of your product. So you'll get bundles of concentrated spots if you don't do a correct homogenization or use like emulsifying agents to help spread those cannabinoids throughout your entire batch. You also might get separation of yeah, like I've heard that producers it'll ruin the gelatin almost to where you try to set it up and it just kind of falls apart. From a testing standpoint, these are especially difficult because the gelatin is not soluble in organic solvents, which is what we use to extract cannabinoids in our lab analysis. We use methanol, and yeah, gelatin is not soluble in methanol. So what this creates is if you just put that whole thing in there or lightly crush it up, you have these large blobs of gelatin and you have cannabinoids inside, and the methanol can't get through to actually pull those cannabinoids out. So that will lead to a lower test result if you're not careful with it. The key way to get around this is to just increase the surface area of your testing section, which we do that by liquid nitrogen pulverization methods. So yeah, this has taken a lot of learning.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has. And looking at a variety of ways to be able to get in and accurately pull out all the cannabinoids to get an accurate potency test for each of those there. Yeah. Cool. There is another question from a participant. He asks, are there any discussions around increasing the THC level above the 0.3? Just any of our thoughts on that?
Mhm. I know that I believe Vermont actually circumvented the federal regulation, and I believe they set their limit to 1% THC. I could be wrong. I know Jill Thayer is in the comments there, and she's a Vermonter, and she can speak more to that on this authenticity. But it sounds like some states are either have or are considering raising that limit manually. I'm definitely for a push in raising the limit for industrial hemp of allowable THC. I think 0.3% it makes it very hard for farmers because it's like the difference between failing and passing could be days. And then all of a sudden you have the Department of Agriculture setting your field on fire because you went to 0.31% THC on your hemp. I think even 1% THC, it's not a psychoactive amount. You're not people who don't want to get those effects from cannabis still won't from 1% THC. So I can't speak for the company, obviously, but in my personal opinion, it should be raised.
Well, and sure, and as Jillian actually commented too, it's of course as a federal, it's a Congress act to be able to change that, and states are looking at different options there too. But yes, it is. I think that there's a lot of arguments for that, and where we work with a lot of farmers, I agree. It's very challenging for them, and even working with the state, where a lot of times their job is to enforce regulations, and they are sometimes left with being the police in a hard situation, to where people who are really trying their best to meet regulations, it's a big challenge to actually do that. So yeah, it's a good question, and I think things will continue to evolve as the industry matures, and as we learn more about the implications, and what really is beneficial and what may be harmful.
That makes sense.
Yeah, good. Hey, well, thank you very much, Alec.
Thank you.
Really good information, very good presentation. Thanks to everyone who participated. Appreciate all you there. We will be replaying the video, of course, and doing follow-up webinars and also podcasts. So please look for those. And thank you, everyone. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks.